This recent LiDAR survey is sensational because the big mystery about Nan Madal was always, where did the people get their food from or their water?
It was the only time in our history that we were ruled by one person, almost like a dictator. So he was able to command all the people on the island to come and assist in the building of Nan Madal.
Rising from the remote Pacific is an ancient puzzle of stone, Nan Madal. For centuries, this city of 100 man-made islands, built with impossible, colossal rocks, has defied every logical explanation. How was it built? Mainstream history has never had a satisfying answer. But that debate is now over. Because for the first time, a LiDAR drone has flown over the ruins, using its laser vision to see what lies beneath. And what it found doesn't just challenge history. It breaks our understanding of reality itself.
There are 90-plus structures, all man-made. From here all the way down south.
All the way to there?
Yes.
Such a huge area.
It is huge.
An island city, forged in stone. The first thing you need to understand about Nan Madal is that it is real. This isn't a myth or a legend. It's a sprawling stone city in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, on the island of Pohnpei. They call it the Venice of the Pacific because, just like Venice, its streets are canals. But unlike Venice, this city wasn't built with modern tools and centuries of European history behind it. It was built by hand, with stones that weigh as much as a full-grown whale. Let's talk about the numbers, because the numbers are what make your brain hurt. Nan Madal is a complex of 92 separate man-made islands called islets. They are spread across 200 acres of shallow lagoon. That's about the size of 150 football fields. Now, each one of these islands is a basket. The ancient builders filled them with coral boulders, and then they built walls around them with these incredible, naturally formed basalt logs. Around 2,000 years ago, people began piling coral and soil onto the reefs surrounding Pohnpei, shaping the first outlines of what would later become something far greater. But it was the Saudeleurs who took this humble foundation and transformed it into an architectural wonder. They introduced the use of towering basalt columns, giant stone logs hauled from the island's volcanic heart and set down upon the reefs. These columns weren't ordinary stones. Forged by the same volcanic forces that gave birth to Pohnpei, the basalt cooled slowly and fractured into geometric patterns. Many formed perfect hexagons, others into pentagons, giving them a strange, almost engineered look. Some weighed just a few tons, while others tipped the scale at an astonishing 50. The builders stacked them like firewood, crisscrossing them to build walls that are still standing today, some of them 25 feet high and 15 feet thick. The total weight of the stone used here is estimated to be a staggering 750,000 metric tons. That's like stacking over 200,000 full-sized cars. And that brings us to the question. The mystery that has haunted archaeologists, engineers, and historians since the first Westerners laid eyes on this place. How on earth did they do it? The people who built Nan Madal, the ancestors of modern Pohnpeians, had no metal tools. They had no wheels. They had no pulleys or cranes. They had no beasts of burden, no horses or oxen to pull these monstrous stones. They were a small island society, isolated in the vastness of the Pacific. So how did they quarry these 50-ton stone columns from the other side of the island? How did they move them through dense jungle, across water, and then lift them into place to create a city that has survived centuries of typhoons? The sheer physical logic of it all seems to break down. It feels impossible. For a long time, the only answers were either simple guesses, a lot of people working for a long time, or a retreat into local legends that spoke of magic and flying stones. But what if we're asking the wrong question? What if the mystery isn't about magic, but about us underestimating the brilliance of ancient human ingenuity? This is where our story truly begins, because now we have a new way to look at this ancient puzzle. Using a technology that acts like a pair of X-ray glasses for the jungle, we're not finding hidden alien machines. Instead, we're finally seeing the true, breathtaking scale of what these people actually accomplished. And what we're finding doesn't just solve the mystery. It completely changes our understanding of what ancient civilizations were capable of. The farm that fed a city of stone. For a long time, the story of Nan Madal came with a puzzling question that experts struggled to answer. How could a city of kings, built from stones heavier than elephants, possibly survive? We're talking about a place built on a coral reef, with no rivers, no streams, and no open land for farming. It's a location that seems to defy the very basics of human settlement. Historians imagined a constant, fragile supply line, a parade of canoes arriving every day from the main island, bringing precious supplies of food and water to support the elite living in their stone palaces. It seemed like a magnificent but desperate gamble. A kingdom entirely dependent on the kindness of its neighbor. That mystery has now been solved. And the answer was hidden not in the famous stones, but deep beneath the soil of the island right next door. The truth was buried under centuries of jungle growth, completely invisible to the naked eye. That is, until a special kind of technology came along. Recent aerial surveys using an amazing technology called LiDAR, that is, light detection and ranging, have completely rewritten the story. Think of it as a super-powered laser scanner flown over the island in an airplane. By firing millions of laser pulses per second at the ground, these lasers can digitally peel away the dense jungle canopy that now covers Temwen Island. What's left is a perfect high-definition map of the actual ground surface. It's like giving archaeologists X-ray vision. And what these lasers revealed was a secret that changes everything we thought we knew. Beneath the green blanket of trees, the data painted a stunning picture of an incredibly complex and vast agricultural system. This wasn't just a few simple gardens hidden in a clearing. The images showed a sprawling network of what looked like sunken, wet fields, carefully divided by earthen walls and connected by a sophisticated web of irrigation channels designed to control the flow of water with precision. This was a landscape of cultivation on a massive, organized scale, a testament to engineering and planning that rivals the stone city itself. This discovery is a complete game changer. Before this, the general understanding was that ancient Micronesian societies were more focused on the ocean. It was thought they relied heavily on fishing and a few staple foods like fermented breadfruit, without the need for large-scale, formal farming. This finding turns that idea on its head. The hidden grid of fields points to something far more advanced. Experts believe this intricate system was almost certainly used to grow taro, a nutritious root vegetable that is a Pacific staple. Taro isn't just planted. It's cultivated in flooded fields that need constant, careful management of water levels. This discovery of such a remarkably complex system suggests these people weren't just casual farmers. They were agricultural experts. This provided them with greater food security and, ultimately, significant economic power. Producing a surplus of stable food like taro would have been the foundation of their wealth. The sheer scale of this farming system is perhaps the most stunning part. The labor investment required to clear the land, build the walls, and engineer the water channels is comparable to the immense effort of constructing the stone city itself. This means Nan Madal wasn't an isolated, ceremonial wonder built by magic. It was the beating heart of a powerful, self-sufficient, and brilliantly organized society. They didn't just build with stone, they mastered the land. They engineered their own food source, which allowed them to support a large workforce and concentrate power in a way that truly rivals other great ancient civilizations. The lost city is no longer just a ghostly maze of canals. It's part of a living, breathing landscape of human achievement. Guardians of the Stones. While the high-tech LiDAR maps were revealing hidden secrets from the air, a much different, hands-on battle was taking place on the ground. The same lush, green jungle that had protected Nan Madal's secrets for centuries was now slowly, silently, trying to destroy them. The incredible stone city wasn't just being hidden by nature, it was being crushed. Imagine a tree growing on top of a wall. It seems harmless at first, even picturesque. But as the roots grow, they search for cracks. They wiggle their way between the ancient multi-ton basalt logs. With each passing year, the roots get thicker and stronger, acting like natural crowbars. Slowly, inexorably, they push the stones apart. A wall that has stood for 1,000 years can be brought down by a single determined tree. And at Nan Madal, the jungle is full of such trees. The most aggressive culprit is the wild mangrove. These trees are like something out of a science fiction story. They don't just grow fast. They can shoot up as much as the height of a tall person every single year. Even stranger, they don't just reproduce with seeds. They send out what look like tiny, ready-made baby trees that sprout straight from the ground, creating an impenetrable thicket in no time. Left unchecked, these plants would eventually reduce the mighty city to a pile of rubble shrouded in roots. The researchers knew that technology alone couldn't save Nan Madal. A map is just a picture. It doesn't stop a root from growing. So, a new kind of mission began, not just to study the city, but to defend it. A team of specialists, including experts from the U.S. Forest Service, arrived with a simple but powerful goal: to train a local crew to become the permanent guardians of this sacred place. The training wasn't about complex archaeology. It was about practical, vital skills. Local team members learned how to safely use chainsaws, how to climb and trim large trees, and, most importantly, how to carefully remove the destructive vegetation without damaging the fragile stones underneath. This wasn't about clearing the land completely. It was about gardening on a giant scale, replacing the destructive mangroves with more gentle native plants that would stabilize the soil and protect the ruins, restoring the ecosystem in harmony with history. This work is the crucial final piece of the puzzle. The high-flying lasers gave us an incredible new understanding of Nan Madal's past, revealing its hidden farms and canals. But the real gritty work on the ground, the sweat and effort of the local defenders, is what will ensure that this wonder has a future. It's a reminder that the city is not a static picture in a history book. It's a living place that needs our care, ensuring that its stones will continue to tell their astonishing story for generations to come. The hidden grid. The greatest logistical nightmare of Nan Madal has always been the stones themselves. These massive basalt columns were quarried from the opposite side of the island, meaning they had to travel over 25 miles across jungle and water. The idea of moving them without a stable base to work from seems almost impossible. But the LiDAR data suggests a brilliant and startling new strategy. What if the builders didn't start with the stones? What if they began by constructing the entire foundation platform first, creating a massive, stable workyard in the middle of the ocean, and then brought the stones in? This revelation alone changes everything. But the scans revealed something even deeper. something that turns the site from a city into something far stranger. When researchers recalibrated the equipment to peer into the platform itself, they didn't find solid fill. Instead, they found a hidden world, a network of perfectly straight tunnels and sharp-angled chambers forming a geometric grid beneath the islands. It was a secret city under the city. This wasn't random. The layout of these voids seemed incredibly purposeful. Some tunnels are aligned with celestial events like the solstices, hinting at a deep astronomical knowledge. Others seem to connect major surface temples, like hidden passageways for rituals or elites. But the most chilling find was a massive circular chamber buried directly under the main royal compound. This space was different. Scan data suggested its walls were lined with a denser material, and follow-up analysis detected traces of rare metals and magnetic ore arranged in a strange, repeating pattern. This was no storage room or tomb. It was a deliberately engineered space. The presence of these specific materials, arranged with clear intent, sparks the wildest question of all. Was this the heart of something more than a city? Could this hidden chamber have been a kind of machine, powered by principles we are only beginning to understand? The mystery of Nan Madal just plunged to a whole new depth. The ocean's clock. We've pieced together the incredible story of Nan Madal's construction. We've mapped its hidden farms and rallied to protect its stones from the jungle. But one of the biggest mysteries has always been, when did all this happen? And more importantly, why then? For decades, the timeline was fuzzy, a blur of centuries that made it hard to understand the city's true pulse. Now, groundbreaking science has turned back the clock, and it reveals a story more dramatic than we ever imagined. The new timeline suggests that Nan Madal wasn't just built by human hands. It was forged by a changing climate, and may have ultimately been undone by it. To solve the dating mystery, scientists turned to the city's own building materials. They used an incredibly precise technique on pieces of coral used in the construction. Think of it like a carbon date, but for coral, using uranium instead. This method acts as a super-accurate clock locked inside the stone. They analyzed nearly 200 samples, and the results were stunning. The old ideas about when Nan Madal was built were off by centuries. The new timeline reveals two great waves of construction. The first began not 800 years ago, but over 1,000 years ago, between the 10th and 12th centuries. Then, a second, even more intense building phase kicked off in the late 12th century and continued into the early 1400s. This new, earlier date is fascinating on its own. But the real bombshell came when researchers compared this construction timeline to the history of the Pacific Ocean's climate. What they found was a direct, almost eerie, correlation. During this period, two powerful forces were causing sea levels to rise around Pohnpei. First, the land itself was very slowly sinking, a process called subsidence. Second, and more dramatically, there was a major shift in a climate pattern you've probably heard of: El Niño and La Niña, together known as the El Niño Southern Oscillation, or ENSO. When a strong La Niña event occurs, it can literally push the sea level around islands in the western Pacific to rise by up to 30 centimeters. Now, imagine that happening on top of a background of the land slowly sinking. The water is coming at you from two different directions. The numbers tell a vivid story. Around the year 800, when construction was just a thought, the sea level relative to the land was about 126 centimeters lower than it is today. By 1180, as the second building phase was beginning, it had become 90 centimeters lower. And by 1380, near the end of the Great Building Era, it was only 70 centimeters lower. The ocean was steadily, inexorably creeping inland. This isn't just a statistic. This was a daily reality for the people of Nan Madol. The city was built on a shallow reef, with canals acting as its streets. As the water rose, these carefully engineered canals began to change. The study suggests that with silt and the higher sea level, some channels would have been submerged under about 70 centimeters of water, even at a medium tide. The lifeblood of the city was slowly drowning. This is where history comes alive. The canals, once efficient transport routes, become sluggish and muddy. The foundational platforms might have begun to feel the constant lap of waves they were never designed to handle. The two major construction phases now make perfect, desperate sense. The first wave of building was likely about creating a magnificent center of power. But the second wave, the one that lasted into the 1400s, that looks more and more like a monumental fight against the ocean. It was a cycle of repair, reinforcement, and building higher. Every new wall and fortified platform was a defense against the rising tide. This constant, exhausting battle likely placed an immense strain on society. The ruling Saudeleur dynasty would have demanded more labor, more resources, and more tribute from the people to fund this endless coastal protection project. The study suggests that this increasing burden, all to fight a losing war with the sea, may have directly contributed to the social unrest that led to their overthrow. The very thing that prompted their greatest building achievements, the rising water, may have sown the seeds of their downfall. Rise and fall of the island kings. For over 500 years, the island of Pohnpei, where Nan Madal sits, was dominated by a single, powerful family, the Saudeleur dynasty. Imagine a rule so complete that it stretched unbroken from the days of medieval knights in Europe to the time of Shakespeare. This was the reality for the people of Pohnpei, and the epicenter of their power was the stone city of Nan Madal. The legends say the Saudeleur rulers were different. They were foreigners, outsiders, who arrived on the island and were notably distinct in appearance from the native population. Their very name, Saudeleur, comes from the Pohnpeian words meaning Lord of the Deleur, Deleur being the old name for the island. It was a fitting title for a family that saw itself as the entitled masters of all they surveyed. The dynasty was a mixed bag of personalities spanning many generations. History remembers some as enlightened builders, credited with creating a stable aristocracy and the incredible stone city itself. But others were remembered for their cruelty. One ruler was notorious for imposing harsh taxes that caused widespread suffering. An even darker legend tells of a Saudeleur lord who used dark magic to seek out and consume the fattest Pohnpeians, a terrifying story that highlights the fear and oppression the people lived under. Their seat of power, Nan Madal, was far more than just a royal palace. It was a brilliant, strategic fortress. The city was divided into sectors, with the northeastern area, Madol Pawe, serving as a sacred mortuary sector with high-walled tombs. But it was also a gilded cage. The Saudeleurs would bring potential rivals to live within the city's walls. This wasn't an honor. It was a way to keep a close watch on them, controlling any threats before they could even begin. The entire island, and even its inhabitants, were considered the property of the Saudeleur ruler. The ruler would lease land to a class of landlords who oversaw commoners working the fields and fishing the waters. In return, the commoners were forced to give frequent tributes of food to the ruler. Over time, these demands grew so severe that the people lived in a constant state of near starvation and servitude. The very society that built a marvel of engineering was being crushed by the weight of its ruler's greed. This oppression couldn't last forever. The downfall came with the arrival of another figure from legend, Isokelekel. Offended by the dynasty's cruelty and their disrespect toward the local gods, this semi-mythical foreigner led an invasion that toppled the mighty Saudeleurs. His victory didn't just change the ruler, it changed the entire system of government. He replaced the centralized, absolute rule of the Saudeleurs with a more decentralized chiefdom system known as the Nanwarki system, which still persists in Pohnpei today. The story of the Saudeleurs is a powerful reminder that even the greatest stone walls cannot protect a kingdom from the consequences of its own tyranny. Their legacy is the magnificent ruins of Nan Madal, but also a cautionary tale of power isolated from the people it was built for. The ultimate mystery. There's no denying it. Nan Madal astounds you. The sheer scale, the weight of the stones, the impossible logistics. It's a place that pushes the limits of what we believe ancient people were capable of. For some, the mainstream explanations, while logical, still leave a lingering sense of wonder that borders on doubt. It's a feeling that has led to a fascinating and controversial question. What if the true secret of Nan Madal is so extraordinary that it rewrites human history itself? This is the Pandora's box that some researchers are hesitant to open. When you have a site that defies easy explanation, it creates a vacuum. And into that vacuum flows some of the most imaginative theories ever conceived. The mystery is so profound that it even captures the imagination of those closest to it. Rufino Maurizio, the director of the Federated States of Micronesia's own Office of National Archives, has publicly wondered if the secret to Nan Madal's origins may not be a terrestrial one. Think about that for a moment. A leading cultural authority from the very nation that houses Nan Madal is open to considering possibilities that go far beyond conventional history. This isn't just an outside speculation. It's a question being asked by the stewards of the site's history themselves. What if the answers we're looking for aren't just hidden in the past, but are, as some like Mauricio suggest, potentially extraterrestrial? For proponents of this idea, the puzzles of Nan Madal have a simple, if stunning, solution: advanced help. They point to the local legends of the Saudeleur rulers as foreign, distinctly different people who arrived with incredible powers. What if these stories aren't just myths? What if they are a primitive interpretation of contact with visitors possessing technology so advanced it seemed like magic? The levitation of stones could be a forgotten anti-gravity or acoustic technology. The city's precise, alien-looking geometry could be the blueprint of a non-human intelligence. Why build on a remote reef? Perhaps it was a strategic outpost or a facility designed to harness planetary energy. It's a thrilling idea, straight out of science fiction. But it's crucial to step back and look at what this theory really is: a hypothesis born from the sheer scale of the mystery. Mainstream archaeologists, while acknowledging the many unanswered questions, see a different picture. They see the slow, gradual evidence of human settlement on Pohnpei long before Nan Madal was built. They see the ingenuity of Pacific Islanders who conquered the vast ocean, capable of incredible feats of organization. For them, the ancient astronaut theory does a disservice to the very people who built the city. It takes an awe-inspiring human achievement and attributes it to outside, otherworldly forces, effectively robbing the ancestors of modern Pohnpeians of their credit. The danger, they argue, is that when we say aliens did it, we are often saying humans couldn't have. So, where does that leave us? The perspective of someone like Rufino Maurizio shows that the mystery of Nan Madol is alive and well. The extraterrestrial origin idea remains firmly in the realm of speculation, a captivating story that highlights just how mysterious this place truly is. It may not be the most likely explanation, but it serves an important purpose. It reminds us that there are still wonders in the world so incredible that they force even experts to ask the biggest questions of all. The stones of Nan Madal don't give up their secrets easily, and perhaps that's exactly what keeps us and our imaginations so captivated. Why a wonder was abandoned. If you let your imagination wander at Nan Madal, you can almost hear the echoes of what once was. Picture it not as a silent ruin, but as a living, breathing capital. Great temples and meeting halls rise from the artificial islands. The air is filled with the sound of wooden canoes sliding through a network of canals, their paddlers navigating the watery streets of this Pacific Venice. This was a place of immense power and spiritual significance, where priests performed rituals, sacrificing sea turtles to feed sacred eels. One legend even says the canals were built first, not for people, but to allow these holy eels to pass through the city. But this brilliant city had a darker purpose too. It was also a beautiful prison. The ruling Sodeleur dynasty was clever. They housed their aristocratic rivals within the walls of Nan Madol. It was a way to keep a close eye on them, turning potential enemies into guests who were forever on display. The city was both a glorious capital and a sophisticated tool of control. This all came to an end when the Sodeleur dynasty was overthrown. The new leaders of Pohnpei decided to do things differently. They split power across the island into 5 districts, each ruled by a different clan. There would be no more all-powerful single king, and therefore no more need for a single isolated royal capital. Just like that, the heart of the old empire stopped beating. Nan Madal was abandoned to the jungle and the sea, and there, a strange thing happened. For the people of Pohnpei, the ruins became more than just an old city. They became a place of spirits and bad luck. Most locals generally stay away, respecting the powerful and perhaps restless energy that lingers there. This cultural belief has, in a way, acted as an ancient preservation law, keeping the site isolated for centuries. In the 1980s, when the United States administered the region, they declared Nan Madal a National Historic Landmark. But when Pohnpei became independent in 1985, that legal protection faded. Today, the ruins exist in a kind of limbo. There is a strong movement to have Nan Madal designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which would bring international funding and expertise for its preservation. But before that can happen, a formal agreement must be reached between the local chief of the area and the central government of Pohnpei. For now, no one seems to be in a great hurry to make that deal. So, Nan Madal waits. It receives only a few hundred adventurous tourists each year. These visitors walk carefully along the tops of the massive basalt walls, looking down into the clear canals at the colorful tropical fish that now swim where royal canoes once glided. But while the fish have returned, the jungle is advancing. Mangrove trees, growing with incredible speed, are slowly pushing the stones apart with their powerful roots. The ocean, steadily rising, gnaws at the foundations. We are left with a poignant contrast. The same engineering marvel that was built to withstand centuries now faces a slow, creeping end. It is a monument to human ambition being gently but surely reclaimed by nature. The story of Nan Madal is no longer about how it was built, but about whether this silent, magical city, abandoned by its people and caught in a bureaucratic pause, can be saved before it vanishes back into the lagoon from which it rose.